rioters, peaceful protesters, mostly peaceful protesters, why do you suppose gun sales are going through the roof? That is, unless you live in Chicago.
They're not giving me the opportunity to protect myself. I can protect myself. I need something to be able to protect my wife, my 2 children, and my child-to-be. And I feel scared living in the city of Chicago. I think it's a nightmare. I have nightmares of leaving the house and being assaulted because I'm not able to protect my family.
The protesters are miscalculating. This is not the civil rights struggle. This is not over whether or not you have the right to attend a school if you're qualified to go to it. This is not whether or not you can sit anywhere you want to sit on the bus, no matter your race. This is not about separate but equal. This is about the government doing its #1 job, protecting people and property.
I've heard some comments from Mayor Lori Lightfoot, and she don't want that type of action in our city. But I'm for we got to do what we got to do.
How bad is it?
I had the luxury of running New York's crime strategy for 7 years. I was very much involved in the turnaround as precinct commander. And the fact is, New York didn't get to the place where it was because now it's slipping backwards dramatically and fast. Overnight, it took 20 years. And the progress that we made in 2013 and 2014, using that exact same playbook, got us to 50-year lows here in the city of Chicago as far as the murder rate is concerned.
Wow.
Then the politics of Chicago took over. Policy is now being dictated by politics. And here we are. In the 4 years since I was fired, there's been 635 more murders compared to the previous 4 years.
Wow.
That's just insane.
Good evening, Sean. Good evening, everyone. I've received unofficial reports that approximately 17 people, in fact, have been shot at what may be ultimately
17 people?
17 people. It's unconfirmed at this point, but I'm sure we'll see more information as the night progresses.
And remember, they are mostly peaceful. Now remember, all of this is about the allegation that the police are engaging in systemic brutality against black people, that the police are killing black people just because they are black. One slight problem, it's not true.
So you agree that there may be systemic racism?
To the extent, in where?
Let me continue my line of questioning.
I don't agree that there's systemic racism in the police department.
Specifically,
generally in this country, the threat to black lives posed by crime on the streets is massively greater than any threat posed by police misconduct. The leading cause of death for young black males is homicide. Every year, approximately 7,500 black Americans are victims of homicide. The vast majority of them, around 90%, are killed by other blacks, mainly by gunfire. Each of those lives matter. It is for this reason that in selected cities where there has been an upsurge in violent crime, we are stepping up and bolstering the activities of our joint anti-crime task forces.
Okay, that's Bill Barr, but even Leo Terrell?
Again, they've been bought and paid for by Black Lives Matter extremists. I challenge on your program any Democratic mayor, politician, those political pundits to argue that the president doesn't have the federal authority to protect federal property. There were 2 federal judges who ruled in favor of federal officers using riot gear. This is just outright lying, Liz, and it just burns me up inside to see these Democrats, who I used to be a party to, lie to try to defeat President Trump. They're ignoring their cities. And what's happening finally? People of color need police officers to protect them from the thugs and the criminals who are rioting every night. This is crazy. We're in an apocalypse right now.
And you know what's...
And even America is institutionally, structurally, systemically, foundationally racism. Don Lemon of CNN once said something eerily similar.
More than 72% of children in the African American community are born out of wedlock. That means absent fathers. And the studies show that lack of a male role model is an express train right to prison. And the cycle continues. So please, black folks, as I said, if this doesn't apply to you, I'm not talking to you. Pay attention to and think about what has been presented in recent history as acceptable behavior. Pay close attention to the hip-hop and rap culture that many of you embrace, a culture that glorifies everything I just mentioned, thug and reprehensible behavior, a culture that is making a lot of people rich, just not you, and it's not going to.
They probably take his butt off the air if he said something like that again. That was back in 2013. Now, the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, has identified exactly why her city has seen a year-to-year increase in shootings and deaths, guns, and of course, Donald Trump. Oh, really?
The fact of the matter is, our gun problem is related to the fact that we have too many illegal guns on our street, 60% of which come from states outside of Illinois. We are being inundated with guns from states that have virtually no gun control, no background checks, no ban on assault weapons. That is hurting cities like Chicago. That is the thing that if the president really wanted to help, that and the other things I identified in my letter he could do today, tomorrow, but he's not really interested in helping in that way.
Do you honestly think this mother of a 4-year-old boy shot and killed in his apartment really thinks that more gun control is the answer? As if bad guys abide by laws in the first place, and if you pass more laws, the bad guys will certainly abide by those.
Sharon Powell is a grieving mother fighting for justice for her son and many other families who have lost a loved one.
We have 20 to 30 shootings a week in the Kansas City metro area. If you don't see a problem with that, like I said, you might need to reevaluate your thoughts and think about that.
The sad truth is that few people, very few people, are willing to stand up and say the truth. The primary problem facing the black community is not racist cops mowing down unarmed, innocent black people. The primary problem in the black community is fatherless homes.
It tells you that the elites have lost faith in the bourgeois values that they practice but are not willing to articulate because they believe that somehow they're associated with white supremacy. We've been hearing a lot, Tucker, about this white privilege meme. That's a poisonous fiction. Here's the real class divide in this country. And sadly, it's also a race divide. The likelihood of growing up with 2 married parents. I'm going to break a massive feminist taboo here and say that males matter, that fathers matter, that fathers bring a set of values and norms to child rearing, whether it's self-reliance or self-discipline, honor and courage, on average, that complement what mothers can bring.
Of course.
And when you lose that symmetry and that emotional support for children that goes so far beyond economic support, which is largely irrelevant, it's the fact that you have twice as much kinship support and the 2 parents can spell each other when one is exhausted. That's what results in successful children. And the anarchy that we've lived through with the looting and the rioting of the last month, Tucker, has been preceded by a more slow-motion anarchy and breakdown, which is the breakdown of the family, because our prisons today are filled almost exclusively with fatherless men.
Well, it starts in the home. You know, if the father's not in the home, the boy will find the father in the streets. Yeah, I saw it in my generation and every generation before me and everyone since. It starts in the home. You know, if the streets raise you, then the judge becomes your mother and, you know, and prison becomes your home.
Even then Senate candidate Barack Obama said something very similar back in 2008.
To realize responsibility does not end at conception. That what makes them a man is not the ability to have a child, but to raise one. That's a message we need to send.
And even Mark Lamont Hill acknowledged that police were not killing blacks just because they're black. You know, Mark Lamont Hill, that rabid racism everywhere, pundit temple professor you see often on CNN and MSNBC Hee-Haw. He went on with Candace Owens. They had a very, very long and candid interview, and he acknowledged that the narrative, the primary reason that people are out in the streets right now and doing the kneeling and doing the protesting and often doing the burning and the stealing is because of the narrative that the police are killing blacks just because they're black.
Blacks and Latinos are 40 to 50% are 40 to 50% more likely to face excessive force. Now, when you get to death, when you get to police shootings, the most accurate and recent data from the studies that are out don't suggest a racial disparity, right? Black people aren't necessarily more likely to be killed by law enforcement every day, on a day-to-day basis. In fact, the numbers are relatively low.
I think the most important, concrete data to look at, and I'm glad you've already acknowledged it, is that there is no racial disparities when you look at the numbers of who's actually dying at the hands of police officers. So the entire narrative that's out there right now in the world is just patently wrong.
Finally, a couple more things, not to change the subject as I change the subject, but do you think Hall of Famer NFL's Mike Ditka, who was or still is on ESPN SportsCenter, will retain his position after he said this?
If you can't respect our national anthem, get the hell out of the country. Then that's the way I feel. Of course, I'm old-fashioned, so I'm only going to say what I feel. I think there's a way that you protest and there's a way you don't protest. You don't protest against the flag. You don't protest against this country who's given you the opportunity to make a living playing a sport that you never thought would happen. So I don't want to hear all the crap. You want to try it, try it. You don't, it's okay.
Now, if, as did Drew Brees, Ditka apologizes and then takes back his statement, I'm leaving town, I'm moving to Cuba. Now, have you seen my film Uncle Tom yet? If not, go to UncleTom.com and be the first in your hood to get you some Uncle Tom merch. And finally, friends, don't let friends vote Democrat.
What? He what? He called me a Democrat. Are you serious? Yeah. Daddy!
I'm Larry Elder, and we've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.